Hello children. Last class, I've been explaining about you all the methods of contraceptives and different methods of contraceptives. We have seen all the contraceptive methods, and this class we are going to see about MTP and other about sexually transmitted diseases and about the different techniques, infertility, that assistant reproductive techniques, different methods involved in it. All these things we are going to see in this class. First of all, we'll see about MTP. What is this MTP? You all will be familiar with MTP. I know that. Medical termination of pregnancy. That is aborting, stopping, termination, stopping pregnancy. This can be for various reasons. We will see voluntary or intentional termination of pregnancy. That is putting end before full term, before it forms an embryo. That is known as MTP. So though it has a significant role in decreasing the population, it's not meant for that purpose, and we just cannot encourage this MTP. Under certain conditions it can be done. So whether to legalize MTP or not is being debated upon in many countries, including our countries, because there are so many reasons behind that, emotional, ethical and religious issues involved in it. So they are just whether to legalize it or not, it's always a question mark. But Government of India legalized MTP in the year 1971 with some strict conditions to avoid its misuse. It can be done under certain conditions, that is emergency situations, but it should not be misused. That is what our government have insisted. So why MTP? Why this is done? Why? What are the reasons behind it? There are so many reasons. We'll see one by one. To get rid of unwanted pregnancy, either due to casual unprotected coitus or intercourse or failure of contraceptives. So this can be one of the reasons why MTP is done. We can do it in this case. The second point is it is very much essential in certain cases where continuation of the pregnancy could be harmful both to the child and to the mother also. In that cases, MTP can be done when they just find out that is going to affect the baby or going to affect the mother. Then under such conditions, any problem for the mother, under such conditions, MTP can be done. So we have to know when it is safe and when it should be done. MTP or safe, that is the first trimester, it is 12 weeks of pregnancy. If it is done under a proper physician or a qualified nurse, then it is safe. That is 12 weeks of pregnancy or first trimester. Then when it is not safe, when it becomes more risk, that is 24 weeks of pregnancy, which is known as a second trimester. When it is done in this, it becomes it's very risk and it becomes fatal for the mother. So when it is done under unqualified quacks means it is doctors, they are not real doctors. Okay, that is a thing. When it's done on not qualified nurses, it is not safe and becomes fatal for the mother. It's very dangerous when it's done under unqualified quacks, which are not real doctors. And you know very well, last class we have discussed about amniocentesis, that is a fetal sex determination. I said very good, good sex determination, and they'll find out it is done in the amniotic fluid, and they'll just determine the chromosomal pattern of the child, whether any abnormality is not there or not. It's very good, but in our country already I said it's a misuse. So here the same thing, amniocentesis is misused to see the sex of the unborn child, and MTP is done in this case, which is not legalized. That is not legalized at all. Okay, so this is what about the MTP, about medical termination of pregnancy. And the next one, what we are going to see is STD. That is nothing but sexually transmitted diseases. STD, diseases which spread through sexual intercourse, or called sexually transmitted diseases or venereal diseases or reproductive tract infections through the sexual intercourse. So let us classify these diseases according to the pathogens, according to the nature of the pathogens. These diseases can be classified: gonorrhea, syphilis, chlamydia, are all bacterial sexually transmitted diseases. They are caused by bacteria. According to the that's bacterial sexually transmitted diseases, these three. And AIDS, genital herpes, genital warts, hepatitis B, they are all caused by viruses. And trichomoniasis, it's caused by a protozoan. All these are sexually transmitted diseases. Okay, and all these diseases are not only transmitted by sexual intercourse, but it also transmitted by sharing of injection needles, surgical instrument with the infected. If they have this kind of diseases and the person shares all these things, they will also be affected. And transfusion of blood is very, very important. Screening of blood should be done before transfusion. So if it is not done, the person may likely to get this kind of sexually transmitted diseases. Or from if a mother is affected, it can sometimes affect the fetus, and sometimes it cannot. Every time I cannot say, sometimes. And except AIDS and hepatitis B, others are completely curable. But other diseases also, if completely curable, but these diseases also, if it is treated properly and if detected early, proper treatment can be given, and they can just give treatment if it is detected early. Otherwise, it becomes very dangerous. Only these two. And these kind of sexually transmitted diseases, they will be having some symptoms which include itching, fluid discharge, pain, and swelling of the genital organs. And any person having all these symptoms in the initial stages, they must not avoid, and they cannot take it casually. Immediately they have to visit a physician. And some of the females often remain asymptomatic, that is, they will not show any of these symptoms. Okay, but anyway, we cannot ignore these symptoms, and early detection and proper treatment is necessary. It's required. Otherwise, it can lead to complications later on, which includes pelvic inflammatory diseases, abortions, stillbirth, child born. It will not be alive. That's what stillbirth. Ectopic pregnancies, that is very well, the zygote formation, implantation will be taking place inside the uterus. It will not happen in the uterus. It takes place outside the uterus, which becomes dangerous for the mother. And infertility, normally infertility, very well, they will not be able to produce children. All these complications may lead to all these complications if all these diseases are not treated properly. Okay, though all these diseases are vulnerable to all these infections, vulnerable to all the people, their incidence are reported to be high among persons in the age group 15 to 20 years. All persons are vulnerable to these kind of diseases. So, as individual, we have to follow certain simple principle to avoid these kinds of sexually transmitted diseases. We'll see some of the principles. Avoid sex with unknown partners or multiple partners, and always use condoms, and go to a qualified doctor for early detection. That is very, very important. Any of the symptoms, immediately we have to just consult a physician. We must not feel shy or something like that. Immediately we have to consult a physician. Okay, that's all about these sexually transmitted diseases. Then we'll just see about infertility. Infertility. You know very well infertility. When they are not able to produce children, it is known as infertility. A large number of couples all over the world, including our country, are infertile, are unable to produce children. You have so many reasons for this. It can be physical, congenital diseases, psychological problems, or hereditary. So many, that is what I said, congenital diseases. So many reasons are there. But in our country, in India, often the female is blamed, but mostly the problem lies, percentage is more for these problems. It lies only with the male. So these problems can be found out and rectified, and proper treatment can be given either for the male or the female, and they will see whether and to make them to have children. Sometimes whatever the proper treatment also fails, then when such natural conditions are not possible, then the couples can be assisted to have children through certain special techniques which are known as ART, that is assisted reproductive technologies, ART. Okay, in this technique so many methods are there. We'll see one by one. All the methods we'll see one by one now. First one is, this is assisted reproductive technology is in the laboratory, artificial method. Okay, in which to form an embryo, artificial methods. When the couple failed, they failed to bear a child, artificial methods. One by one we'll see. In vitro, IVF, in vitro fertilization, anything in vitro. It is in the lab, outside the body. It's not the natural condition. Outside the body, in almost similar conditions, they'll create so that in the body, all similar conditions, whatever natural conditions, they will create artificially in the laboratory. And this in vitro fertilization will be followed by embryo transfer. So in this this method is popularly known as a test tube baby program. In the test tube baby program, ova from the wife or donor, whoever is willing to give, ova or the egg, and sperm from the husband or the donor are collected, and they are induced to form zygote under simulated conditions in the laboratory. I already said this is not the natural method. So to form zygote under similar conditions, like natural conditions will be provided in the laboratory to form a zygote. It will be connected from the donor or from the wife egg, and the sperm from the husband or the donor. So it will be formed. The zygote, in the zygote, you know, it undergoes mitotic division. Blastomeres, or the small cells, when it divides, it forms cells. Those cells are known as blastomeres. The zygote, or the early embryos, that up to 8 blastomeres, it will be transferred into the fallopian tube of the female. That is known as a ZIFT. ZIFT, zygote intra-fallopian tube. The same embryos with more than 8 blastomeres. Early embryos, that is up to 8 blastomeres. More than 8 blastomeres means directly it can be just induced into the uterus. That's known as IUT, intrauterine transfer. To complete, then it will be just further for further development. Further development takes place after IUT, that is intrauterine transfer. The embryos will be directly just inserted into the uterus for further development. And sometimes embryos formed by in vivo fertilization. Vivo, I said natural. In vitro, in the laboratory. In vivo fertilization, normally women can produce embryos that can be used to assist those females who cannot conceive. Those embryos will be collected by the natural method, and it can be used for the other females who cannot conceive. That also can be done. These are the methods. That is also one method. Then we'll see a next one, gift. That is gamete intra-fallopian transfer. Transfer of an ovum collected from the donor into the fallopian tube of another female. That is what fallopian transfer. Of another female, you cannot produce one, but they will provide suitable environment for fertilization and for further development. So that female cannot produce an egg. So that alone will be transferred into the fallopian tube. Apart from that, she can have a natural environment or suitable condition for fertilization and further development. So that is known as gift. Okay, then the next method is ICSI, that is intracytoplasmic sperm injection to form an embryo in the laboratory, in which a sperm is directly injected into the ovum, and the embryo will be in the lab. So that is one method. And infertility cases in male, that can be overcome by the artificial insemination. Artificial insemination is a method in which the male that are found to be infertile. Reasons for this is inability of the male partner to inseminate the female, or very low sperm counts. So what is the procedure in artificial insemination? The semen collected either from the husband or the healthy donor is artificially introduced either into the vagina or into the uterus. That is IUI, intrauterine insemination of the female for further development. This is also one method. So all these methods are successful. Okay, in our country it has been, nowadays it has become successful, and sometimes it becomes a failure also, but all these methods are very expensive, and it needs not only one physician, a teamwork, a group of doctors should be there, and they need special instruments for this, very expensive. Sometimes some of that procedure will be painful, but success rate is more. Though all these methods are good, we can also infertile couples, even they can opt for other options, like they can adopt a child, because in our country there are so many orphanages and destitute centers in which a child can be adopted by these couples. That is also one way. Apart from this, I think I made this lesson more clearer for you, and we'll see the rest of the things later on. Thank you, children. Have a good day.